January 11th, 2024. Well, before I get into the main topic here and the title, I would like to make a comment that we're watching this disaster unfold out in California with these wildfires. I mean, this is obviously a real catastrophe, and I think this could even potentially bankrupt some insurance companies for the few that still had policies on people out there. I understand a lot of them had already canceled before this. That's a disaster for anybody that doesn't have any insurance either and have their house burned down. And of course, well, it depends on who they are. I mean, some people, some of these wealthy people may actually have other assets that are greater than their value of their house, and others don't. So it's the middle class or upper middle class, what do you want to call the non-super wealthy of the group are really in bad trouble, and it's absolute disaster. They're losing everything they got and all their memorabilia and everything. It's the community's wiped out. But at any rate, we can only hope that things work out for the best. The thing that's rather bothering me more is that people on the left are trying to actually blame this on climate change. And from my understanding, that these winds are not unprecedented out there. That what we really have going on is a mixture of arson and the winds and the fact that you don't have adequate preparation for firefighting. Reservoirs of water that were supposed to be filled aren't filled, and things of that sort. So it's a complete mess up. But at any rate, we wish the people the best out there. At any rate, getting on to the main topic here, which of course is the finale here of the trial of Trump for basically having his accountants book a legal expense as a legal expense. Well, that's finally come to a conclusion in which he's been convicted of 34 felonies and sentenced to nothing. So, at any rate, and I guess the reason he was sentenced to nothing was they figured that then the higher courts would have to take action on it, and they didn't want to be overturned that quick. So this can sit for a while. And we can look, I know he may try to make a last minute appeal to the Supreme Court, who apparently refused to hear the case. And of course, that I saw a thing to Dan Bongino where he was excoriating everybody and screaming that that John Roberts was a liberal and all this sort of thing. But at any rate, I'll kind of get into that a little bit here. But if you like these videos, please give me a like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Or you can also find me on Rumble, which I got the address listed below. So that's, I know that everybody, I think the whole trial in New York was a complete sham, and it's totally unjustified. I fully agree with the things that Trump is saying about that and everybody. That's a really an abuse of power, totally. And I don't know, but on the good side of this, in my opinion, is the fact that now that this is done, it won't have any effect on his being able to take office and serve as president. And I think that will allow his lawyers to go forward with an appeal, in which he probably won't even have to appear in court on any of these things. This is just a legal argument about the trial and the way it was conducted before an appellate body. And there's so many reversible errors in this case that I've been posting on X. I hope people didn't take me the wrong way on that, but I think this is good in the long run that he can actually get on with the real appeal and probably in the next year or so get it overturned. I mean, this thing is so reversible it isn't even funny. I mean, there's all kind of precedent violations. They didn't let him present all the evidence he wanted to be presented. They didn't even give proper instructions to the jury, and they didn't point out they had to agree on all the charges. They could pick and choose. I think he's guilty of this, and somebody else thinks he's guilty of that, and somebody else thinks he's guilty of the other thing. So add it all together. Gee, I guess he's guilty. That's not allowed. They're supposed to actually have instructions to agree on a single set of charges, and that itself is reversible. The immunity could come in because they used presidential witnesses from his presidency against him in the trial, and that might invoke the immunity part of it. The action itself, and in and of itself, as he points out, that this was pretty much put together. I mean, it's totally bogus from the beginning to end. But as I said, I think it's kind of good that he's not going to be stuck with it all the way through his presidential term and then have to deal with it afterwards. because it isn't like he has to do a lot to deal with it while he's in office. He can just, his lawyers will be doing it while he's working on tax cuts and fighting the border and dealing with foreign affairs and all those things. So anyhow, the way I see it. Um, but, um, but Judge Marchand is a real piece of trash, in my opinion. Anyway, and I do think the Democrats that think this is a good thing are really crazy. And maybe someday it will happen to one of their people, see how they feel about it. Um, Another thing I want to address here is we've been noticing that in recent period of time, uh, Trump has been making a lot of kind of wild statements about like making Canada the 51st state and buying Greenland from Denmark and doing something about taking control of the Panama Canal and all that sort of thing. And some of these things probably have a rationale behind them, but they also, I think probably the Panama Canal has the most likelihood of success, although it probably won't be a military invasion, but some other kind of action involving, because Panama is a kind of a small and relatively weak country. On the other hand, I think, and I think its big point on that, of course, is the Chinese influence there. So, but otherwise, I don't see much likelihood that Canada is going to agree to be a 51st state. And I think you have to push the Greenland. I don't know if Denmark's going to sell it, and if they did sell it, they'd probably sell it for such a high price. So what's he up to here? And I've kind of come to an idea of what I think is really probably going on. Remember, he has a bunch of people that's nominated here for various cabinet positions, and some of them are fairly unconventional in their backgrounds. I mean, you know, Pete Hegseth is a good guy. We've seen him on Fox News a lot. He's a combat veteran. I think he's what, lieutenant colonel in the National Guard. He's a combat infantryman. I think 2 tours. He's got Bronze Stars, combat infantry badge. So he's a serious soldier. But generally, but he doesn't really have the kind of political and managerial skill set you normally see in a Secretary of Defense. And then you have Tulsi Gabbard, who I guess she was on a committee involving intelligence, but other than that, she really doesn't have much of an intel background for Director of National Intelligence. And, and of course, not that I don't like these people, but they are unconventional. It may be a little bit tricky getting them confirmed. And there's other people too, Kash Patel for FBI. I mean, I'm looking forward to that one happening. But remember, that some people probably don't like that idea very much, And so I think what's going on here is that what he's doing is he's trying to fill the political airspace up with discussion about side topics like, for example, Greenland and Canada and Panama and so forth. So they don't have time to really bore in on these people and really undermine their chances of success. So I think what this really comes down to is kind of a grand distraction, so that probably will help them focus on the actual hearings for the cabinet positions and not really be able to derail things. So it's a grand distraction, I think, and I think it may very well be working. And of course, the other tragedies that are occurring right now, such as the fires in L.A. and of course the passing of former President Carter, also are taking up a lot of news space. And so we haven't had a lot of time for the normal attacks you would have. There are some there, but they're just not getting the level of airtime that they otherwise would need in order to do the destruction that the opponents of Trump would want. So I think he may be really outsmarting them all here. So at any rate, that's sort of what I think about that one. We'll see what you think. We'll keep up with everything. So I'll be wrapping this up for now, by the way, and I'll post this as always on YouTube and Rumble, and addresses my social media accounts in the description below. You can look for me posting most frequently on X, and if you haven't followed me on X, if you're on there, please do, because I have a lot of little updates and funny things to say about various liberals and so forth, what they post. And so that'll be it for now.